On a frozen lake, a young man named Jack Frost emerges, with no memory of how he got there. His last memory is of seeing the full moon in the sky, and upon leaving the water, he finds a staff that, for some reason, gives him the power to freeze anything he touches. The young man is thrilled with this newfound power and runs to the nearest village, where he tries to speak to the inhabitants. However, none of them seem to hear him, and one boy even manages to pass through Jack, as if he were an invisible spirit. 300 years pass, and at the North Pole, Nicholas North, also known as Santa Claus, watches over the children of the world with his magic globe. Suddenly, a mysterious energy begins to envelop the globe, announcing that a threat from the past is about to return. Santa Claus then sends a message in the form of the Aurora Borealis to summon his companions, known as the Guardians. Sandman, the god of dreams, and the Tooth Fairy travel to the North Pole to find out what happened. With everyone gathered, Santa Claus announces that Pitch, the boogeyman, is back. Easter Bunny finds this impossible, as they managed to capture him centuries ago, and he can't waste time with rumors because Easter is approaching. However, a bright light emerges from the windows, coming from the Man in the Moon, the entity that chose the four as guardians. The light creates a shadow forming the image of the boogeyman, proving that the villain intends to cover the world in darkness once more. To prevent this, the Man in the Moon chose a new guardian, who will help the group face Pitch. Using a machine from Santa's castle, he reveals the new member, none other than Jack Frost, the young man who awoke in the frozen lake centuries ago. Everyone is surprised by the choice, especially Bunny, who always considered him irresponsible with the use of his powers. Far away, Jack Frost wanders the world, flying with the winds and spreading ice everywhere. Although he appears to be just having fun, the truth is that Jack uses the ice to attract attention, hoping someone will see him. One morning, he encounters a boy named Jamie. The boy is going to meet his friends, but his mother tells him to put on his hat, or he'll freeze like Jack Frost. Jamie asks who he is, but his mother just says he's an old legend, and he's not real. Upon hearing this, Jack decides to prove he exists and throws an enchanted snowball at Jamie. Somehow, Jack's magic makes the boy happier, and he starts a snowball fight with his friends, until one of the snowballs ends up hitting Cupcake, the strongest girl in the neighborhood. Once again, Jack uses his magic, and Cupcake decides to join in the fun, throwing a huge snowball at the boys. However, Jamie ends up slipping and sliding uncontrollably with his sled, ending up in the middle of the street. Quickly, Jack uses his magic to create an ice rink, helping the boy avoid a moving truck. Luckily, Jamie lands in front of a statue without getting hurt, but he is hit by a sofa that came loose from the truck, losing his first baby tooth. He soon shows the tooth to his friends, and later, puts it under his pillow, hoping the Tooth Fairy will come and get it. Jack watches the boy and his happy family inside the house, which only makes him feel even more alone, since no one can see him. As Jack walks along the power lines, he sees Sandman's sands drifting across the sky, bringing sweet dreams to all the children. One of them is Cupcake, who dreams of a unicorn, but soon after, the boogeyman appears and uses his magic to turn the dream into a nightmare. The unicorn soon transforms into a dark horse, and Pitch orders it to go to its lair deep in the forest. The horse then gallops off, passing close to Jack, who, finding this suspicious, decides to follow it. Along the way, he runs into the Easter Bunny, whom he has met in the past, but things didn't end so well. Even so, the Easter Bunny says he's on a mission, and soon after, Santa's Yetis capture Frost and take him to the North Pole through a portal. Upon arriving at the castle, Jack finds the other Guardians and asks what's going on. Santa Claus explains about the return of the boogeyman, and that Jack has been named the new Guardian by the Man in the Moon, the same entity that brought him back. Although he wants to talk to the Man in the Moon and find out why he was created, Jack refuses the offer, as he doesn't consider himself fit to be a guardian. Santa Claus then calls him aside for a private conversation, and after showing him his toy factory, he talks about something all guardians possess, their core. He explains that the core is the purpose of every living being, with Santa Claus's purpose being to bring joy to children. However, Jack replies that he hasn't yet found his core, but their conversation is interrupted by Easter Bunny, warning everyone about an invasion of the fairy kingdom. Santa Claus then decides to go there and summons Jack, the Easter Bunny, and Sandman to travel together in his sleigh. With the speed of their reindeer, the group speeds through the skies, but upon arriving in the kingdom, they see an evil energy capturing all the fairies. Luckily, Jack Frost manages to save one of them, and the group invades the palace, where they find the Tooth Fairy. She asks for help because her little fairies and the children's teeth have been captured by a mysterious energy. The one responsible for this soon reveals himself, and Pitch appears at the palace, along with the dark horse he created with Sandman's magic. He is surprised to see Jack Frost, but since he is not yet a guardian, Pitch simply ignores him and warns that he has come seeking revenge. In the past, the Boogeyman was the most feared entity in the world, bringing terror to the homes of all humans. However, the Man in the Moon chose the 4 guardians to quell the darkness of pitch black through their light. Over time, the Boogeyman was forgotten, while the guardians became beloved and celebrated on special occasions. However, Pitch promises that this will end, starting with the Tooth Fairy, who, without her little fairies, could not collect the children's baby teeth. Because of this, they all woke up sad the next day, and in time, they will stop believing in the Tooth Fairy. Pitch intends to do the same with the Dream World, Easter, Christmas, and when no one believes in the Guardians anymore, they will cease to exist. However, Santa Claus warns that he will not allow this, and with his swords in hand, he advances against Pitch, along with the other Guardians. The Easter Bunny throws his magic eggs and boomerangs to attack the entity, but the Boogeyman disappears without a trace. Seeing that the threat is greater than they expected, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and Sandman try to think of a way to stop Pitch Black. While they talk, Jack laments that they took the children's teeth, but the fairy explains that, in fact, what is most valuable are the memories contained within them. Each tooth holds the memories of its children, including Jack Frost when he was still human. He is surprised, as he thought he was born in the frozen lake, and wants to know about his past, but the fairy says that his teeth were also taken by Pitch. To make matters worse, the fairy kingdom begins to be overtaken by darkness, as the children are ceasing to believe. With the situation becoming more critical, Santa Claus has an idea and calls on everyone to help the fairy by collecting the children's teeth tonight. Everyone agrees, including Jack Frost, who wants to regain his memories from when he was human. So, the 5 set off around the world to collect children's teeth, each using their special abilities. While Santa Claus has his sleigh and can enter through the chimney, the Easter Bunny opens holes in the ground, shaped like portals. Finally, Sandman, the Tooth Fairy, and Jack Frost fly through the skies, sneaking into children's bedrooms and taking their baby teeth. After traveling through the world in just a few hours, they deliver everything to the fairy, but she asks if they remembered to leave presents behind. Realizing they forgot this detail, the 4 go to collect coins and presents, leaving them all under the pillow. Unbeknownst to them, the Horse of Darkness sees everything and returns to its hiding place, where it informs its master. Seeing that the light continues to exist, it devises a plan and sends its horses of darkness after the group. Finally, Jack and the fairy go to Jamie's house to leave their gift, both happy to bring joy to the children. The fairy thanks Jack for his help and promises to recover her memories once they get their teeth and fairies back. Shortly after, Santa, the Easter Bunny, and Sandman also appear, but the noise wakes Jamie up, and he's surprised to see the Guardians in front of him. Unfortunately, Jack isn't a Guardian yet and remains invisible, but there's no time to lose, and Santa tells Sandman to use his sand to make the boy fall asleep. The entity then creates a ball of dream sand, but when it was about to throw it at Jamie, his dog sees the Easter Bunny and attacks him. Sandman misses his aim, and the ball scatters across the room, causing everyone to fall asleep right there. Amidst the chaos, the dark horses appear at the window, and Jack calls Sandman to follow them. As soon as the two leave the room, Sophia appears and is delighted to see the fairy tale creatures in her house. She ends up finding a snow globe in Santa's suit and accidentally throws it against the wall, creating a portal in the middle of the room. Meanwhile, Jack Frost and Sandman continue to pursue the dark horses, with the God of Dreams transforming one of them into a flying manta ray. Next, Jack fires an ice blast at the creature, trapping it on the roof of a building. However, Pitch appears soon after and tries to convince him to leave the Guardians, as this battle is not his. The conversation continues until Sandman appears and summons his sand whips to attack Pitch. The villain tries to retaliate with a scythe, but Sandman is stronger and captures him with the whips, throwing him towards the road. Defeated, Pitch pleads for mercy, saying he only did all that because he didn't want to continue being forgotten by people. However, in a surprise maneuver, he summons dozens of dark horses, which begin to surround Jack and Sandman. Fortunately, Santa appears in his sleigh and saves them both, with Pitch ordering the Horses of Darkness to eliminate the Guardians. Jack and the others join forces to confront the creatures, with Sandman creating a cloud of sand and using his whips to keep them away. However, Pitch summons a powerful arrow and shoots Sandman in the back, causing his body to be consumed by fear. The God of Dreams is corrupted, and Frost flies as fast as he can to save him, but Sandman vanishes before his eyes. Pitch then conjures a wave of fear energy against Jack, but his fury causes him to unleash a powerful blast of ice, knocking the villain down in the middle of the forest. After that, Santa takes Jack and the other Guardians back to the North Pole, but tragically, the group is now incomplete. Later, the Guardians hold a funeral in honor of Sandman, but without their dreams, the children are plagued by nightmares. The light fades around the world, but Easter Bunny remembers that tomorrow is Easter, and asks the group for help in delivering the eggs to the children. The group agrees, and the rabbit opens a huge portal in the ground, leading them all to his burrow. Upon arriving, they see eggs with tiny feet piled up in the burrow, and flowers spraying ink all over them, decorating them for Easter. Suddenly, the Easter Bunny notices a strange presence and pulls out his boomerangs to defend himself. However, it is Sophia who appears, having managed to enter his burrow thanks to the snow globe's portal. Without the Sandman to put her to sleep, the Tooth Fairy tries to distract the girl by showing her the teeth she took from the children. However, this only frightens Sophia even more, and the other Guardians try to calm her down, but none of them know how to do it. Jack is surprised because, despite being her protectors, the truth is that none of them have spent much time with children before. Even though Sophia can't see him, Frost invokes his snow magic to distract the girl, and ends up bewitching the Easter Bunny. He is so happy that he spends the day playing with the girl while the eggs are being prepared for Easter. For the first time, the Guardians understand what it means to truly make a child happy, and after a day of fun, Sophia finally falls asleep. Frost offers to take her back home and sets off with the girl, along with the fairy. After dropping Sophia off at home, he hears a familiar voice coming from afar and tries to follow it, even though the fairy is asking him to return to the burrow. Jack follows the voice into the forest and through a tunnel, where he finds the underground kingdom of the Boogeyman. Seconds later, Pitch appears and asks Jack to come to his side, for only he understands what it's like to feel alone and forgotten in the world. He also accuses the Guardians of not valuing Jack and taking all the credit, while the boy remains invisible to everyone. Frost doesn't want to believe this and tries to confront Pitch, but instead of fighting back, Pitch hands him a golden box containing his teeth and all his memories. Jack is surprised and asks what he wants, but the Boogeyman disappears, saying that Jack has actually done enough. Confused by these words, Jack manages to leave the tunnel, but the little fairy who was beside him has disappeared. Furthermore, upon returning to the Easter Bunny's burrow, he finds the eggshells scattered on the ground. Elsewhere in the city, the Easter Bunny tries to deliver the remaining eggs to the children, but upon seeing the empty baskets, they stop believing in Easter and are unable to see the Guardian. Jack soon realizes he's been tricked, and during his absence, Pitch used his dark horses to attack the lair. Upon seeing the boy, the Guardians confront him, and the fairy sees the golden box Jack is holding. Everyone suspects Jack betrayed them, having traded the fairy and her companions for his memories. The young man tries to explain himself, but the children are losing faith, and Bunny is growing weaker and weaker. Feeling guilty, Jack flees through the skies and arrives at a huge ice mountain, where he tries to throw the box away, along with his teeth. Before he can, Pitch appears and proposes a partnership with the boy, to use darkness and ice to take over the world and make people believe in them. Jack, however, refuses, knowing that Pitch wants to make them believe through fear. The villain becomes furious and gives the boy an ultimatum, threatening to eliminate the fairy if he doesn't help him. Pitch begins to squeeze her tightly with his hands, and with no other choice, Jack accepts. The villain demands his staff in exchange, but when Jack hands it over, the Boogeyman doesn't keep his word and warns that Frost will spend eternity alone. To the madman's misfortune, the fairy uses her beak to peck Pitch's hand, which he throws towards the ice wall. Frost tries to confront him, but the Boogeyman breaks his staff in half and pushes him into a crevice. Finally, the villain throws the broken staff to Frost and leaves, saying that Jack will remain alone in the middle of the ice. Luckily, the little fairy survived and goes to Jack, who tries to keep her as warm as possible. Seconds later, he hears the same voice from before coming from his coat, and realizes it's coming from the golden box. Upon opening it, he remembers the past, when he was still a young human, enjoying playing with his brothers in the forest. One morning, he went skiing on the lake with his younger sister, but the ice was still very fragile. The girl was frightened by the cracks forming beneath her feet, but Jack told her to stay calm and come slowly towards him. He then pretends that the two are playing, and jumps to the firmer side of the ice, asking his sister to do the same. However, the cracks are getting bigger, and Jack jumps with his staff, pushing his sister away and saving her life. However, the boy sinks into the icy water and cannot withstand the cold, his last vision in life being that of the full moon. But due to his sacrifice, the man in the moon chose him to be a guardian, giving him the power of ice, and renaming him Jack Frost. Now that he knows the whole truth, Jack decides to help his friends and tries to reunite the two halves of the staff. By focusing his magic, he manages to fix it and flies with the fairy towards the North Pole. Upon arriving, he doesn't find the Guardians and sees Pitch invading Santa's castle, ordering all the Yetis to cancel toy production. From that day forward, the world will know fear, and the villain celebrates as he sees the lights around the globe going out. With only one light left, Pitch is confident of victory, but despite everything, that single light continues to exist, somewhere in Michigan. Seeing that it's Jamie, Jack flies towards the boy's room and finds him talking to his plush rabbit toy. The boy says he still believes in Easter and asks for a sign that the previous night wasn't a dream and that the Easter bunny really exists. However, nothing happens, and Jamie drops the plush toy, symbolizing the end of his faith in the Guardians. Even without being seen, Jack uses his magic to freeze the bedroom window, creating the shape of an Easter egg. Furthermore, he draws a rabbit and transforms it into a spirit that leaps around the room, scattering snow everywhere. Upon seeing this, Jamie remembers what his mother said about Jack Frost, and calls out to him until he finally manages to see him. Jack is surprised to finally be seen, and tells the boy to keep his faith in the Guardians, because they all really exist. Soon after, Santa and the fairy arrive in their sleigh, but they have to make an emergency landing because their powers are fading. They are searching for the last light, and they find Jamie, who can now see Jack Frost, and is certain that the Guardians are real. In addition to them, Easter Bunny also appears, but with the end of Easter, he transforms into an ordinary bunny. Even so, Jamie's light keeps them alive, and the Guardians need to find a way to restore everyone's faith before it's too late. Meanwhile, Pitch appears in the sky, spreading his dark energy, and Jack orders the group to protect the boy while he faces the villain alone. Despite his strength, Pitch is even more powerful and manages to overcome Jack's freezing energy. He is then forced to retreat and flees with the group, who do everything they can to protect Jamie. Since the boy still has his faith, Pitch decides to resolve the matter in another way, and summons his dark horses to eliminate them all, once and for all. Jamie starts to get scared, but Jack tells him not to worry and to pretend it's all just a game. At that moment, Jack remembers doing the same to calm his sister down, and finally discovers what's really going on. He became a guardian to entertain the other children with games, and so he hands a snowball to Jamie. The boy then throws it at Pitch's face, and because of this, the madman doesn't see Jack and the others escape with his ice magic. Still, the group needs more help, and Jamie goes to call his friends, with the Guardians delivering the last remaining gifts. Meanwhile, the magic of the snow allows the children to see Frost, and they all run towards the Guardians. The group arrives at the city center, where Pitch appears with his horses, ready to destroy the light once and for all. The Guardians don't yet have the strength to stop him, but Jamie and his friends step forward, willing to help them. Pitch then unleashes a blast of dark energy at the children, but Jamie extends his hand, saying he is no longer afraid of the boogeyman. The boy's strength causes the dark energy to recede, transforming into the same dream sand that Sandman used. With the children's courage, the creatures are transformed, and the Guardians regain their strength, including the big rabbit, who returns to his original form. Together, they set out to confront Pitch, who tries to attack them with his scythe, but the whole group attacks at once. Seeing himself surrounded, the villain hides and tries to attack them by surprise, but a familiar whip catches his hand, and Sandman returns to life. Thanks to the children's energy, the evil power returns to normal, and the god of dreams binds Pitch with his whip. Next, Sandman spreads his sands all over the world, making children have happy dreams again. The villain has been defeated, and the children celebrate together, this time with a snowball fight against the Guardians. At that moment, Pitch wakes up and tries to use his magic to scare the boys, but Jamie walks right past him and doesn't see the boogeyman. Pitch despairs and tries to return to his hiding place, but is stopped by the Guardians, and Fairy punches the madman for capturing her fairies. The villain makes one last stand, saying that soon, fear will grip humanity once more. To prove it, he summons his dark horses, but the creatures seem to have a new target. The horses sense the fear within the boogeyman and charge towards him, dragging him straight into the depths, where he will remain trapped for a long time. Finally, the Guardians defeated Pitch, and the fairies were freed, along with the children's teeth. The Tooth Fairy hugs Jack in gratitude, and the two exchange glances for a brief moment. However, they are interrupted by Santa, who pulls a book from his coat containing the Guardian's oath. With Jamie and his friends around, Jack promises to be a guardian and protect children all over the world. Finally, it's time to return to their base at the North Pole, but Jamie doesn't want Jack to leave, fearing that one day he might lose faith in Guardians. However, Jack reassures him, saying that he will be nearby, always protecting Jamie from fear and darkness. Finally, Jack Frost departs with his new companions in the sleigh, certain that he was chosen by the man in the moon for a purpose, and that he will follow his true calling forever.